Hi guys, it's Rob from Royal Balls. I've done a lot of videos recently on various technical aspects of keeping ball pythons, and it struck me, do I really need to know all of that stuff in order to breed ball pythons? And the answer to that is no. And it took me back to when I first started with ball pythons and some of the questions that I had. I started with a normal female. I got a normal female and my son got a normal male, and we grew them up, and after a couple of years we decided we'd like to try and breed them, and that's when we discovered we'd made mistake number one. They were both females, and I think it's fairly obvious, even to somebody that's not bred ball pythons before, that that's not going to work. You do need to have a male and a female, but fortuitously that mistake was actually a blessing in disguise. So the next question I had as a complete novice was, okay, I have a normal ball python, can I still get some really cool looking baby ball pythons if I've only got a normal female to work with? Let's delve into that and look at it through the eyes of a complete beginner, and some of the questions that I had and some of the mistakes that I made. Let's get after it. So this is where it all started for me. This is Sarah, the first ever ball python that I owned. It is a female. She's now about 5 years old. She has bred one time and then refused to breed again, but you can see that she is extremely well conditioned. She's thick and chunky. She weighs about 2.3 kilos, 2,300 grams, and she is being paired up again this year, so normal ball pythons still do feature in my breeding plans. So we started off with two of these girls, and at the time we made the mistake of not sexing them properly and deciding that we wanted to breed ball pythons. That gave us the opportunity to go out and look for a male, and because the female was already up to size and males get up to size a little bit quicker, we were able to buy a male hatchling to put to these females, and only had to wait about another year to grow it up. If we'd done it the other way around and we'd already got ourselves a male, the females take a lot longer to mature. They take 2 to 3 years before they're ready to breed. So in actual fact, you do want to get your females first and get your males second. So that was the first consideration, which turned out to be a blessing in disguise. It's a good thing. It allows us to do a little bit of research and buy a male for this female that would allow us to produce some fancy babies. So mistake number one did in fact allow us a period of time that we could do a little bit of research and have a look for a male ball python, and also have a look at how we were going to produce fancy snakes using just a normal. And it is possible. Do you need to know all about fancy genetics and probabilities and making hets and all that stuff? No. If you procure yourself a male and you stay away from recessive genes, you need to get yourself an animal that contains dominant or co-dominant genes. They will show up in 50% of the offspring, even though the female is only a normal. So you don't need to know all that stuff. You just need to know that the male that you're buying contains co-dominant or dominant genes. So we bought a male. This is Tiger. We bought him as a hatchling and grew him up. So let's take a look at Tiger. Let's get rid of the female because she doesn't want to stay still. So this is the male that we bought to go with that normal female. He was sold to us as a banana enchi warmer, and the first time I bred him, he turned out to have pastel in him too. So he's actually a 4 gene animal. All the genes are co-dominant or dominant, so they will all show themselves or express themselves in 50% of the offspring, even though we're breeding to a normal. So that's a good thing. You don't need to know any of the fancy genetics or probabilities. You can just breed this snake that contains 4 co-dominant or dominant genes, and they will be expressed in the offspring. A 4 gene animal means that the likelihood of producing a normal from that pairing is reduced. The more genes that are at play, the less likelihood there is of producing a normal. the more likelihood there is of producing one or more of the genes that are contained within this animal here. So we bred and got 6 eggs. So to answer the question, is it possible to produce some fancy snakes from a pairing of a normal to another snake? The answer is yes. So the pairing was this guy to Sarah, who is a normal, and she gave us 6 eggs in her first season. So let's take a look at some of the babies that we produced from this pairing. So there we go, guys. This is one of the offspring from that pairing, and I think you'll agree it's a fairly fancy snake, even though the mother was a normal. The genes in the father, there are 4 different genes in the father, and there's a 50% chance for each gene to be passed on. The genes act independently, so there's a 50% chance that his offspring will be banana. There's a 50% chance that his offspring will be enchi, and there's no dependence between banana and enchi. Just because you have banana does not mean you have an increased or decreased chance of getting enchi. It's 50-50 just the same. There's a 50% chance that the babies will be pastel, and there's a 50% chance that the babies will be warmer, and of course any combination in between. So this guy is a 2 gene animal. He's banana, clearly, because he's yellow. He inherits that from his father. And he's enchi. You can see that the body is banded as opposed to the alien heads that a normal ball python would have. So this guy has inherited 2 of the 4 genes from his father. And we'll just take a look at his brother, who is slightly smaller, but you can see the family resemblance. And actually, this guy here is also banana. You can see from very bright yellows. He inherits that from his dad. But you can see that the pattern is distinctly different to his brother. This is enchi and this is warmer. So again, this guy has inherited banana from his father, and he's inherited warmer from his father. Both of these guys are males, and I think you'll agree that they are fairly cool looking snakes. So yes, it is possible to produce really cool looking snakes from a normal to another ball python, provided that you pick the right genes in the parent. These animals are male. They have inherited the genes from their father, so in terms of my future breeding plans, there is no point keeping these 2 animals. I already have a male that contains all of these genes, and males can breed several different females. So even if I add females to my collection, I can breed him to all of those females, and therefore I don't need these guys in my collection, even though they are really fancy snakes and I'm very proud of them. These will go off to a new owner. I can reproduce these snakes at any time by breeding the father to just a normal, and we stand a very good chance of reproducing these offspring. I don't keep the males because I already have the powerhouse male. I don't need another male because my male can breed any number of females that I provide him with. So these guys can move on to a different collection and be of use to a different breeder. Okay, so those are 2 of the banana ball pythons that I got from the clutch, and they're both males. This animal is also from the same clutch, and this is a female. So this is a sister to the 2 bananas that we just looked at, and obviously this is not a banana, and funnily enough, the banana being a sex-linked gene, because she's not a banana, that's why she's female. The 2 bananas are male. He is what's known as a male maker, so any banana offspring that he produces will be males, and any non-bananas will be females. So this animal is a pastel, you can tell from the blushed out head, and she is also warmer. This is the classic warmer pattern. Just like her brother, that was the banana warmer. She has the same gene, but she has pastel rather than banana. So she is also a 2 gene animal, and because she is female, I will keep this animal in my collection. I will grow her up and she will join the breeding team. So why am I keeping the females rather than the males? As I said earlier, a male can breed any number of females, so you always need more females than males, because he can then pass on all of those genes to any of the females that he's paired with. Whereas a female, she will pass on the genes that she has and the genes that are contained in the male that she is paired with. So she will see one male and therefore will pass on the genes from that male and from herself, and there'll be no influence on any of the other pairings that I might make in my collection. So I definitely need more females than males. This is 2 genes that I can utilise in my breeding plan. This is Pastel and this is Warmer. So again, she's inherited 2 of the genes from her father, nothing from the mother. And this is a snake that I want to keep in my collection. She'll be added to my breeding plans, and I can use a different male to breed to her to pass on the genes that were originally from her father to the next generation. So this is a female Pastel Warmer. This is her sister. This is also a female, and she inherits just one of the genes from her father. This is a Pastel. It's not a normal. It's a Pastel. You can tell from the slightly blushed out head and the slightly brighter pattern, especially on the dorsal, and also the blushing on the dorsal stripe. So she inherits one of the genes from her father. This is also a female, but because there's just one gene, she's Pastel, and I do have Pastel. I think most people would have Pastel in their collections once they accumulate more than a couple of snakes. Pastel is going to be one of those genes. Again, I will pass her off to another owner. I don't need to keep the Pastel, but she is female, so therefore she has the same value to another breeder. She is the one that will be producing clutches of eggs. So all 4 of these snakes were produced from that pairing. I did produce a couple of others, which has gone off to a new home. Okay, so the answer to the question, can you produce fancy snakes using just a normal? Yes, you can, if you choose the male correctly. And it's always better to use a male as the powerhouse. From a genetic standpoint, if the original pairing had been reversed and it was the female that was the Banana Enchi Warmer rather than the male, the offspring would come out just the same. You would get exactly the same result, but it would have taken us a lot longer to grow up the female, having made the initial mistake and not purchased the right sex animals to breed. If we had to go out and purchase a female, it would have taken a long time for her to grow up to breeding age. And again, that female can only be paired to one male at a time, and she will produce 1 clutch of eggs per season, as opposed to the male, which can be bred to any number of females. So as you go through this process, yes, you don't need all that knowledge. Yes, you can produce cool looking snakes. Keep your females because you're going to use those in the future if you decide that you do want to breed. So keep the females and let go of the males. The original male that we bought, because he's a 4 gene animal and such a powerhouse, years down the line now, 5 years further on, he is still in the breeding team and is still useful to us. So that was another good decision that we made at the time. We bought a powerhouse male with 4 genes in him that is still valuable in the collection today. So let's just trace out the history of the male, and I've shown you some of the offspring from those initial pairings. The male is still busy and he's been producing other offspring for us. So let's take a look at what the male has done for us since that first pairing to a normal. So let's just remind ourselves again of the male that we purchased originally to go with those 2 normal females. This is the male, the 4 gene animal that I described initially, and this year we have paired him not to a normal but to a Cinnamon Mojave female. So 4 genes in this animal combined with 2 genes from the female that we paired him to this year. So remember the history here. This animal was purchased in order to service the 2 normal females, but he is still part of the collection. So as your collection grows, if you purchase the right male, a powerhouse male with the right genetics, he will be useful in your collection in subsequent breedings. This Cinnamon Mojave girl, who is absolutely massive, is his partner for this season. So the original male is still working hard for us in our collection, and he was bred to this female. So it's a natural progression. So I think it's justified in terms of a breeding history and how I got started to show you some of the offspring that we produced using the 6 genes in this combination. So we have Pastel, we have Banana, we have Enchi, we have Warmer, we have Mojave, and we have cinnamon in this pairing, so 6 genes. Did we manage to produce some fancy looking snakes from this pairing? You bet we did. So now this is next generation, same father as the original pairing, but now you can see the influence of cinnamon in this baby. This is banana and enchi from the father, same as the original snake that we looked at, the original baby, but he also inherits cinnamon from his mother. Because he's banana, he's also male. So let's just remind ourselves of what the banana enchi from the pairing with the normal looks like compared to the banana enchi cinnamon from the second pairing. So you can see the similarity in the pattern, the banding on the snake. You can also see that both of them are banana, this one being the yellow one with no cinnamon influence. This guy has cinnamon in him inherited from his mother. So let's just hold him up to the camera so that you can see the contrast there between him and I guess it's his step brother, because it's the same father. Okay, so you can see the progression in the collection. Using the same male but to a different female, we were able to produce some different combinations, and this is cinnamon banana enchi. So a 3 gene animal as opposed to the 2 gene animal from the original pairing with the normal. So this is just another example of what you can do if you purchase a powerhouse male to service your original normal females. Years down the track is now servicing females that were added to your collection and contain other genes. You remember what I said about not keeping the males because I can reproduce them at any time? Well, this is an example of that in action. This guy here, I said I could reproduce at any time. Well, I have this guy here, which is almost an exact copy but with an extra gene from a different female. So again, you can see that I can reproduce these snakes, and I do have some control over the genetics that are involved and can produce some slightly different animals or variations of the same animals using a different mother but the same father. So very important when you make the decision to pick up a male to put to your normals, that you pick a powerhouse male that's going to be able to stay in your collection for years to come. That was a good move on our part. Let me just finish off with one of the females that were produced from that second pairing to the cinnamon Mojave female. The females, I said, are being held back, and this also will be held back to add to my collection. It's a very pretty snake. It's not banana, that's why it's female. So she has inherited cinnamon, probably Mojave from the mother, and there's one extra gene in there which I suspect is warmer, which is what's making this so bright. It's either warmer or it's enchi, I'm not sure which, but a very pretty animal. We'll keep this one in the collection, grow it up a bit and see whether we can sort out what the genetics are involved in this, but a very pretty snake and probably a 3 gene animal. Very pretty. And again, that was produced using a different female, but the original male that we purchased years ago to service those 2 normal females. Good move. Before I end this segment, I've got some great news. It's early Sunday morning, guys, and I'm about to go out into the jungle on my enduro bike. But some really good news. One of the 2 runt babies has shed, and it looks like it's the normal, the possible double het on the left, but you can see the skin. He's shed. Great news. So now we just have to wait out the axanthic on the right. That's the smaller of the 2. Let's hope she makes it. So these are the 2 runt babies from a clutch of double hets that were very, very small, 44 grams and 33 grams, and did not shed out with the rest of their clutch mates, and they were given to me to try and pull them through. So it's been about 3 weeks since all their clutch mates shed out, and both of them have had to be assist fed to keep them alive in the meantime. But as you saw, the double het has actually now shed out, and I'm waiting for him now to take his first unassisted meal by himself. The smaller of the two, the little exanthic girl at 33 grams, I assist fed her again the other day. She still has not shed, but she's still alive. I'm keeping her damp, as you do with new hatchlings. We've just got to persevere and see whether she makes it. As I said, I was about to leave into the jungle on my enduro bike, which I do most weekends, so I'll just put up some shots here of where I go at weekends. It's a tropical rainforest, single track. There's a lot of tracks out there made by bikers or runners or walkers, and you get to see some really spectacular scenery, so just take a look. Okay guys, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed that brief history and my initial forays into breeding ball pythons. I hope it rings some bells with people. It's a familiar story, I'm sure, to many. So thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.